Welcome to Common Ground. I am your host, Bill Spadea. This episode brought to you by our good friends at New Jersey 101.5, Action Networks, and Elect Common Sense. We've got a big show for you today. Lots to talk about. Can Trump win New Jersey? And is the mask nonsense coming back? But first, many people talk about the injuries and adverse effects that happened after so many people were forced into a position that they had to take the COVID vaccine. Many of us stood strong and said, you know what? These mandates are unnecessary and this should not be happening, especially when it comes to kids. Now, there are two doctors out there that have not only been fighting since the mandates came into play now, 3 years ago, but they continue to fight today. As a matter of fact, these two docs, if you look at this, have set up something called React 19. As a matter of fact, if you want to bring awareness to the adverse effect of the COVID vax, you can text REACT to 50155. Joining me now, our friends, Dr. Craig Wax. I'm going to bring him in a second. Dr. Craig Wax has been an outspoken champion. He is a New Jersey doctor. Always great to see you, Doc. I also want to bring
Thanks, Bill.
You got it. Dr. Joe Wallskog. Doc, great to meet you. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me on Common Ground. Let's get started. Dr. Wax, I'll go to you first. Tell me about this texting and fundraising that you're doing to help folks that have been injured by the COVID vax.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, everybody knows somebody who's been injured. I mean, when I take a history in my office, I ask, do you smoke? Do you drink? Do you do drugs? Have you had the COVID shots? And I don't ask it as a prevention. I ask because now I've got to think about all kinds of other cardiovascular, neurologic, cancer risks and things like that. So the issue that we're seeing now, and Dr. Wallskog can speak about React 19 and the program that he and some others have set up. It's quite amazing what they've done. This program is the idea behind Shaveless February, or hashtag Shaveless Feb, is to bring awareness and to put a new face on shot injuries and things like that, because, people have been harmed, they haven't been believed, and there's been no help for them. And the government has fallen flat on all of their responsibilities in all of this. So the idea is to not shave for the month of February. And you'll notice that, Dr. Wallskog and I have not, and others.
Now, I normally don't shave, so I feel like I was slightly ahead of this curve, guys.
Yeah, it's fine. You had shaveless January as well, so God bless you, Bill, along with your staff. But the whole idea is to raise not only awareness, but to raise money and to raise, the education level of those who need it. And texting REACT to 50155 or going to the organization react19.org, which Dr. Wallskog can talk about in detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dr. Wallskog. Let's talk about that. There are still people that push back. You've still got major pharma companies pushing the vaccine. You've got ads after ads sponsored by government entities, paid for with taxpayer dollars, saying, get your booster, get the third booster, keep going. These are safe and effective, although we're hearing more and more reports of government agencies and scientists and doctors coming out saying, well, maybe not so effective. Well, maybe not so safe. What do you say when someone tells you, come on, doc?
Well, first of all, if you are injured by one of the COVID shots, what I want to say is these people are truly devastated. They're devastated financially, physically, and emotionally. And, the compensation program that's set up in the United States, if you're injured by one of the COVID shots, it's called a Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program, or CICP. To date, that program has only paid 11 Americans for injuries from the COVID shots for a total of $41,000. So React 19 is a grassroots, science-based, non-political advocacy organization for those Americans injured by the shots. We started this organization in November of 2021 with 10 people. Now we represent over 36,000 Americans injured by the shots. So yeah, when people say it's rare or the injuries are rare, they'll say, oh, 1 in a million. Well, if it's 1 in a million, how do we represent 36,000 Americans? So, I always say not so safe, not so effective.
What do you say to folks that have asked about the adverse reporting with the CDC and that the numbers are wildly understated? I mean, if you look at how they project it could be understated, you could be into the hundreds of thousands, if not topping 1 million vaccine injuries.
Yeah, the adverse event reporting systems in this country are horrible. But remember, I kind of figured they were designed that way. I mean, if you want to have a bad system that doesn't pick up a lot of the injuries, have something like VAERS, which is the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. So our reporting systems are horrible. It's called passive surveillance. So it depends on the person reporting rather than actively asking and following up on the injuries. I had a spinal cord injury called transverse myelitis after my one and only Moderna shot, December 30th of 2020. And within 7 days, I had problems walking, began falling. And I'm listed in VAERS as non-serious because I didn't die and wasn't hospitalized, although I lost my career. So the reporting systems are horrible, but I'm convinced that they were designed that way, not to be able to pick up all these adverse events. And how many people have called me over the last, almost 3 years? Zero.
And with the reporting system at VAERS, I mean, if you look at Open VAERS, if you check that out, there's been 1.6 million reports through January, 37,000 deaths, over 200,000 hospitalizations, and many other issues, cardiovascular events, miscarriages, and it may underrepresent, as Dr. Wallskog was saying, by a power of up to 40, if you look at the worst of a data status person, Stephen Kirsch.
Dr. Wax, let me ask you, what do you say to mom and dad who come in and say, Doc, we've been told by the school, we've been told by another pediatrician that our child, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, should get the booster for COVID. What do you tell patients?
There's absolutely no reason, scientific, medical, or otherwise, only political or profiteering, in my opinion, that anyone should ever look twice at those kinds of things. Young people didn't die of COVID, don't die of COVID, and the boosters are useless because they're even geared toward previous versions of COVID that no longer exist. They're extinct. So you're using a gun that backfires with bullets that won't hit the target. It doesn't make any sense.
Dr. Wallskog, with so many adverse events reported, this seems unlike almost any other treatment, drug, mRNA, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, vaccine, treatment, drug that's on the market, that if you had this many reports, wouldn't most drugs be pulled?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, what's happened is, I think, unprecedented. And what people don't realize is that we're really in the world's largest clinical trial in history. And no one has any idea of the long-term effects, or long-term adverse events, reproduction, cancer, and so forth. So I'm terrified for people. And that's why really, not only do I want to serve as co-chair of React 19 to help advocate for those injured, but I also want to see less injuries occur. And again, the one thing I think everyone can agree on that these kids should not be getting these shots.
Doctors, I'm going to wrap it up in a second. I just want to ask you, so the folks that see this, React 19, they text REACT to 50155. Where does the money go if they contribute?
So 100% of the funds from this campaign will go directly to what's called our CARE Fund. Our CARE Fund is a financial grant program that gives grants to injured Americans injured by the COVID shots, grants up to $10,000 for uncovered medical expenses. We've given out over $750,000. We are a 100% volunteer organization. None of us take a dime, but 100% of the money raised in this campaign will go directly to our CARE Fund.
Okay. Dr. Wallskog, Dr. Wax, always good to see you. We'll certainly be in touch and keep us posted on the progress. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Be well.
You got it. Take care. Okay, guys, what I'd like to do now is just have a quick word from our sponsors. Acteon Networks has been with us And from the beginning of this podcast, and then I want to get to the question that is on my mind, certainly, can President Trump win New Jersey in the 2024 election? Coming up after the break, Congressman Jeff Van Drew.
Pop star Iona Mansion started a craze last night by carrying a yellow bucket. Fans have been rushing stores.
I can't believe these fools fell for the bucket promotion. What do we make them buy next?
How about convincing people that beards are bad for their health? We'll make a fortune in razors.
Perhaps we can work on getting cars banned? Bikes for everyone.
Interesting idea, except for me, of course.
Hey, how about a surveillance special like Action Networks?
You fool. We don't want people feeling safe. That's why we sell battery Wi-Fi cameras. Batteries have to get replaced over and over, and they come to us to get them. Now, go learn more about this Action Networks. Keep me safe specials are bad for business. They must be stopped before word gets out.
Joining me now, I'd like to check in with our good friend, Congressman Jeff Van Drew. Congressman, welcome to Common Ground. What a battle you've got ahead of you in New Jersey. I want to ask you, we're looking at President Trump now speaking in Michigan, another blue state that he absolutely pulled out of the hat in 2016. This is the opportunity. You are chairman of the campaign in New Jersey. What are your thoughts on winning this state for President Trump?
I think we got a shot. I really do. And that's why I'm doing this. I believe in what President Trump is saying. I believe we need this change. You know, in the last election, they try to propose that, well, you know, Joe Biden is a middle of the ground kind of guy. It's going to bring tranquility to the country. He's going to work with everybody. So they snuck it out through that and many other reasons as well. People know what Joe Biden's about now, and they know what the people around him are about, including the hardworking people in New Jersey who are breaking their back to make a living, to make ends meet, who are paying, you know, sky-high costs at the supermarket. I won't go through all the issues. Bottom line is, we know where we were 4 years ago. We know where we are now. We know we can do better. And even in blue New Jersey, we can get this done. So what are we doing? We have teams throughout the state, as you know, Bill, in every single county that are getting his petitions filled out. We're organized. There's enthusiasm. We're making sure to give people whatever tools they need to get out there and speak. I'm going to be in Bergen County at the Bergen County organization coming up. I think it's Wednesday of this week. I have to double check, but speaking to them about what we can do.
It is, and I'm going to see you there. It's going to be a great event. Congressman, what do you say? What do you say to people that say, look, New Jersey, though, 2-1 Democrat, tons of independent voters. With the turnout we saw back in the 2021 gubernatorial, where 6 out of 10 New Jerseyans stayed home. What's the main thrust of the Trump campaign in New Jersey? Is it turnout? Is it changing Democrat minds? Is it turning out Republicans, or is it focused on unaffiliated, or all the above?
It's all the above. Most importantly, though, and this is important for those that are watching and listening right now, you know, I personally liked it when you just went and voted on election day, and that was it. Unless you were sick or out of town or had a good reason and you did an absentee ballot. Times have changed. We have something called early voting, and we're really concentrating on getting Republicans to vote early. Why? Because when we get as many Republicans as possible to vote early, then we can really concentrate on those that didn't get out and get out their vote, number one. So that's important. Secondly, independents and undeclared folks, they really do care about New Jersey and care about America. I think they are seeing what's going on. We're going to really focus on them and getting them to really get out, vote and know there's a clear and substantive difference. If you believe in a strong America, if you believe in America as number one, if you believe in American exceptionalism, if you don't believe in globalism, which most Americans do not, it is important to get out and vote. And we're going to bring that to people in a digestible, easy to understand way. So it's all the above, but particularly focusing on those areas.
Congressman, real quick, in the few minutes we have left, let's just talk quickly about what happened in New York with the judge ruling against Donald Trump, banning him from doing business in New York for 3 years, pausing his kids from being able to do business, and fining him $355 million. How has that impacted the race? Will the Democrats get what they want, that this is going to hurt him, or has it backfired already?
Democrats and the left, particularly, are trying to do two things. One, they're trying to scare anyone that wants to get involved and has a different opinion and know that the wrath of hell is going to fall on you. And it has on Donald Trump. And boy, he's held up well. So that's the first lesson they're trying to teach. The second one is that anybody that does get involved, they want to make it as painful as possible. And they want the voters to think, oh, there's so much going around on this candidate. In other words, Donald Trump's got so many court cases and so many issues. How can he be president? Well, he can be. He is fulfilling all his obligations to campaign hard. He's still doing well in the private sector. He's an unusual individual. We know that. He's fired up. He loves America. And that's what counts at the end of the day, Bill, loving America. Do we think this is a great country? It really is. You know, you and I can talk about all the complexities, but damn it, it's that simple. Do you believe in this republic? Do you believe in America? Then you've got to vote for Donald Trump this year.
Congressman, how much will the border crisis weigh into this? My wife, Jody, and I are headed to the border with our team on March 7th, 8th, and 9th. We're going to go see firsthand Laredo, McAllen, meet with a lot of the law enforcement folks and military folks that have been sent there. What's your take on what is happening, and how much impact is that going to have on independent voters who are looking and saying, wait a minute, you're letting 279,000 come over the border. That we were 269 last count in 1 month. And we're paying for their health care, their housing, their food, and their legal fees, plus their higher education. What impact will that have, especially in a blue state like New Jersey?
It's going to have an impact because you know what? Even in a blue state like New Jersey, people know how much in debt their kids are, how hard they're working to try to pay for their college education, yet there are subsidies for illegals. We don't take care of our veterans the way we should. We don't take care of education the way that we should, and a host of other things in this country, yet we have money for that. But, you know, I'm glad you brought this up. This is really important. You know, there was a bill produced in the Senate that was supposedly, the Democrats love to say, was a bipartisan bill that would button up the border. That is not true. It is a lie. It was a bad bill. It was one of the worst bills I've ever seen in the history of legislation. What it would have done would have been to codify and legalize illegal immigration. It wouldn't have had the return to Mexico policy. It wouldn't have finished building the wall. It wouldn't have empowered the officials that are out there, the Border Patrol, to actually stop people from coming in. It would have legalized having up to 2 million people a year or more if the Secretary of Homeland Security or the President wanted to increase the number at any given point in time. It didn't do anything like Title 42. It didn't immediately send people back to their country of origin. If they did get through, it was nonsense. It was horrible. If I wasn't on TV with you, I'd use another word. We did a bill. H.R. 2 passed the House. It's at the Senate. The Democrats in control won't allow it to be heard in the Senate. That does all the things I just spoke about, would button up that border, and they won't do it. So don't let anyone ever tell you that the Republican House doesn't want to do this and they don't want to compromise. We want to do it, but I will not vote, and many others will not vote for a bill that actually makes it worse. That bill is an embarrassment and a shame on the Senate.
Congressman, thank you. Wise words, strong words, courageous words. Keep the faith, keep the fight. I'll see you in Bergen County this week, and we will certainly see you on the trail. Let's bring this home to victory. Thanks, Congressman.
Thank you, Bill. Take care.
You take care. All right, guys, what I'd like to do now is bring in just a quick word from our sponsor, one of our great sponsors, Elect Common Sense.
Guys, Bill Spadea here. Like you, I am sick and tired of the culture of acceptance that has been beaten into us by Trenton politicians on both sides of the aisle. Accepting their higher taxes, accepting higher tolls, crumbling roads, accepting a radical school curriculum, accepting busloads of illegal border crossers, accepting prisoners being let out before they complete their sentences, and perhaps worst of all, accepting losing November after November. It is time to break the mentality of acceptance being pushed by Trenton politicians. We need to demand common sense policies and leaders who get it. I am excited to announce the launch of Elect Common Sense and to serve as its honorary chairman. It is time to get back to winning.
ElectCommonSense.com. I will tell you, this is my next guest. It's really amazing that when you look at what we've been through with COVID, with the mandatory vaccines, with the mask mandates, and the harm that we've seen to our children across the state, not just the sexualized curriculum and the gender confusion, and now we have the state Senate in New Jersey looking to lower the age of consent for kids to have transition surgeries. 13 years old. That's what they're talking about. Can you imagine your 13-year-old being able to come to you and say, sorry, mom and dad, I'm doing this. It's madness. But it goes back to the basics. And if you remember, not only did they isolate our children, but then they forced masks on kids. And that included special needs kids. Well, there were a couple of moms that said, you know what, we're not going to take this anymore. One mom in particular stood up and said, my son with autism has been advised by our doctors not to wear a mask, but the school insists on keeping the mask on him. So she went to school board meetings in Cranford to protest without a mask. Well, 8 months into that protest, she was eventually arrested on Valentine's Day, arrested for not wearing a mask at a school board meeting. My next guest joins me. His name is Ron Berutti. He is not only the husband of the woman in the middle of this mix, but he is her attorney. And just so we're clear, Ron has been fighting for liberty in the Garden State, standing up for people's constitutional rights, standing up for their civil and medical liberties from the outset of this nightmare. Ron Berutti, always good to see you. Thanks for joining me on Common Ground.
Thanks for having me, Bill. Appreciate it.
So let's jump right in. Tell me the story of your wife and now your client's arrest. What was she intending to do with her protest, and where does the case stand now?
Yeah, well, the major protest that she had was really against the school board and the superintendent who refused to take any actions, which they could have done, to protect kids with special needs. They had a certain amount of discretion. They chose not to do it. Her two kids, the oldest has autism, and the youngest has certain other disabilities, and he would lick the inside of his mask. He was 5 years old. He got a mouthful of sores and, from the bacteria, et cetera. And he got an exemption note from a doctor. And she went from the school nurse to the principal to the board to the superintendent. No one would do a thing. She testified before the Senate committee. She testified before an assembly committee. No one would do a thing. Month after month after month, she spoke at school board meetings. No mask was on, even though supposedly it was required. They never did a thing. They never arrested her. But with the end of the mask mandate coming to the fore, Valentine's Day, on January 24th, 2022, she wanted to speak again about the problems being caused to special needs kids and the inaction of the board and the superintendent. And they went on with the meeting the entire first half, and then they did the public business. And then when it came to time for the citizens to speak, they insisted that everyone wear a mask. Gwyneth, my partner and wife, was the only one not wearing a mask. And they said that if you don't wear a mask, we're going to call the police. She refused, kindly, very politely refused, exercising her First Amendment rights. They knew exactly what she was doing because they'd heard her for months. And they went to executive session, came back, and everyone in that room pretty much took their mask off in support of Gwyneth.
No kidding.
Yeah. So no one was arrested, but they terminated the meeting. Then over the next couple of weeks, there were threats that if someone came to the meeting without a mask, they'd be arrested. Gwyneth called the local chief of police, who led her to believe that no parent would be arrested. The whole mask thing was coming to an end. Thankfully, it was his basic premise, and no parent will be arrested. But they did. They set her up to be arrested. She refused again politely. But we'd also served a lawsuit on the board for terminating the meeting, violating her First Amendment rights. So they all had in hand a copy of a federal lawsuit telling them exactly what her position was, and they still had her arrested for not wearing a mask on Valentine's Day. Very nice. Loving Cranford.
Well, and this was at the end of the mandate, so they were going above and beyond. But let me ask you this. Now, you're an attorney. At the outset of COVID, I was one of the first people, certainly in the media, to come out against the masks right away, against the lockdowns. And this is ridiculous. We have that cruise ship was almost a perfect experiment. We had the numbers out of Sweden. We had the numbers in Georgia and Florida where they were opening their schools. It was obvious that the lockdowns, the masks, and the jab were meaningless and useless and were only going to cause more harm than good. That said, many people now coming around. But one of the things that I did was I posted an article on NJ1015.com/Bill Spadea that had a copy of the governor's executive order. And in the executive order, there was a written line offering a medical exemption to the mask mandate. No one accepted that. So the question is, how many more lawsuits like this could be brought? Will your lawsuit, if you win, I understand it's going to the Supreme Court, or it will make its way that far potentially. How many people will this potentially impact? And are there damages out there for folks that were denied services, not allowed into the doctor's office? I can't tell you how many urgent care folks were turned away, not allowed. You're not wearing a mask. Is there any possibility of that?
Well, right now, the precedent was set. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals is the first court of appeals to really rule on the issue of mask mandates, and they ruled on it in this case. The court ruled against Gwyneth in this case and essentially set a bar and said a mask mandate during a pandemic, not wearing a mask is not protected free speech. It's not symbolic speech. And, of course, our position is that this is a very different case. This is a situation where for months the people who she was protesting knew exactly what the protest was, and they set her up for an arrest. They actually told the police before arresting her that if she doesn't put a mask on, we want you to arrest her. So it wasn't like there was an exigent circumstance. Everyone was waiting to arrest her. So I think that for other people, this is actually a really bad decision right now, and we're really hoping to get to the Supreme Court. We're in the process of putting together a petition. We're working with a very well-known, one of Justice Thomas's former law clerks, who will be writing the petition for certiorari together with me. We're taking this very seriously, and we're not going to spare expense to just try to take it to the Supreme Court. We want to get the best shot to get up there because we need to reverse this precedent. There has to be some basis for people to be able to take off their mask and protest. And in this case, again, 8 months.
Ron, you and I have talked about this. I had you on the radio show a week or so ago. I wrote an article about it, and I linked to dozens of studies that have showed, irrefutable evidence that the mask causes more harm than good. We talked about the increase in eye infections, the idea that people were reinfecting themselves, breathing in their own mucus. It's just disgusting stuff. And there's now a mountain of evidence showing that the virus was 1/100th of the size of the openings in the mesh of these masks. So they even said that N95, it was inconclusive whether or not the N95 mask had anything to do to protecting people. So given all that evidence, why are we still even debating the masks?
Well, because people are so set in their beliefs and look, this is a whole thing about belief. Most people don't look at that evidence. Most people just want to believe what they're told. And we really live in a society of sheep to a large extent. And it's for those of us who are not sheep, those of us who do understand the facts, to actually take a leadership role and try to turn these things around. Otherwise, no one else will. And we're just going to give up our liberties left and right. And we can't do that. We have to live in a free country. And we cannot just allow this to continue happening without swinging to the last punch is thrown.
You are a true champion of liberty. I'll tell you, Ron, it's great to know you, and thank you for doing what you do. How can people track this? What is your website? Is it mnblawfirm.com? That's your website?
My MNB Law Firm is, it's my current website is murraynolanberutti.com. We're transferring over to MNB Law Firm, but you can just Google my name. You'll find, my website. And we have a ton of cases. We have a ton of different cases for transgenders, for masking, for vaccines, for DEI. We're taking it all on because somebody has to. Yeah. And there are very few of us out there.
Real quick, in the few seconds I have left, what's the time frame between now and a potential case before the Supreme Court?
We're hoping to file our petition by March 1st or thereabouts. And if that happens, we hope to hear from the court by May as to whether or not they'll accept the case. Very few cases are accepted by the Supreme Court, 1% to 2%. But we're hoping to have enough impact with what we write to get some attention of at least 4 of the justices, which is what we need. If we can get 4 of the justices' attention, we'll be up in the Supreme Court.
Keep us posted. Keep us posted. We'll have you on again. Ron, thank you. Best to your son. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you so much. Bye.
All right, that is Ron Berutti fighting the good fight, and more than just fighting the fight, but he is scoring what could be a major victory for the rest of us as he takes this case all the way to the Supreme Court. What I'd like to do now is just quickly have a word from our sponsor. As you know, Acteon Networks has been a big sponsor of Common Ground with me, Bill Spadea. And they are a partner with us at New Jersey 101.5 and here on this podcast. And the truth is, you've heard me talk about Acteon Networks and what they've done for my home, what they've done for my family. But, they're also experts at protecting businesses. So if you've got a retail business or whether it's a law firm or an accounting firm or whatever it is, and you want to have security, loss prevention, remote site security, you got to go with the pros. Trust me on this when I tell you, it is so easy to disable a wireless or a DIY solution. You need to protect your employees. You need to talk to my good friends, Jack, Denny, Chris, and their entire team at Acteon Networks. They will set you up. Go to acteon.net. And again, we're able to come at you, broadcast this, and share the message of common sense because of the great businesses like Acteon Networks who support our cause, our efforts. Go to acteon.net. That's ACTEON, acteon.net. All right, what I'd like to do is just quickly wrap up with you and capture what's happened today. A few things that you need to know. Number one, as I had mentioned before, you've got this opportunity to help out folks that have been injured by the COVID vax. They are numbering now in the hundreds of thousands, and that's just according to the Vaccine Adverse Reaction Reporting System. You can text REACT to 50155. I want to thank Dr. Wallskog and Dr. Craig Wax for joining us. I also want to thank Congressman Jeff Van Drew. Jeff Van Drew has done an outstanding job. As I mentioned before, Donald Trump, who aggressively went after Michigan in 2016 and turned the table on the Democrats, now going on offense in New Jersey. There is an opportunity, guys, for us to take back this great country. Don't let anybody tell you that your rights are somehow subject to majority will and public panic. We live in a republic. Not a democracy, a republic. And that Republican form of government means that the Constitution of the United States protects your rights. Guess what? Whether you live in a blue state or a purple state or a red state, you have rights. And too many folks on the right and the left want to say that it's not about the Constitution, it's about the political party in charge. The reality is we need to get back to a time where we had political leaders who respect the Constitution, political leaders who respect individual rights, political leaders that understand that a mom and dad's first duty is to protect their kids. So whether it is the fact that our neighborhoods have become less safe because of bail reform, because of the sanctuary state ushered in by Joe Biden and Phil Murphy, or whether it is the turnstile of bail reform, or the fact that we are taking money money away from homeless Americans to support illegals coming across our border. Or maybe it's the sexualization of the kids in school and now the drive from Trenton to lower the age of consent to 13 years old for some gender transition surgery. It's absolutely outrageous. We have to get back to common sense. We have to get back to basics. There are men and there are women, and we need to understand that this whole gender dysphoria is a mental condition. It is a disabling mental condition that people who have true gender dysphoria need help. They don't need ridicule, they need help. But at the same time, if you try to normalize this and act like gender is fluid and any 13-year-old can just decide that they're born in the wrong body and go somewhere else, outrageous. We're harming kids. That's what's driving the suicide rate, in my opinion. That's what's driving the depression and the alcohol use and the drug abuse. We have enormous problems in New Jersey. We have roads that are in terrible disrepair. We have a Department of Labor that barely functions. We have a Department of Education that is trying to take away parental rights. Sadly, we have some Republicans who support this. We had Jack Ciattarelli in the last election supporting licenses for illegals. We know that's a pathway to illegals voting. We have John Bramnick, who's running for governor now in 2025, not waiting for the 2024 election, running it already and saying he won't vote for Donald Trump because here's a guy that supported Matt Platkin, the attorney general that actively went after parental rights by suing school districts on behalf of this ridiculous gender fluid propaganda agenda, literally aggressively trying to take parents out of the conversation. So guys, we've got infrastructure issues, we've got crime issues, we've got an illegal invasion on our southern border, and every state is now a border state. So I'm going to continue to come at you every week, every day on the radio, as often as I can. I said I will be at the border on March 8th. That's a Friday. I'll be broadcasting live from the Rio Grande River between Laredo and McAllen, Texas, to bring you the firsthand scene. We're also going to be taking a trip to Israel in the next few months. A lot coming up. Stay tuned. Follow me on social media, at Bill Spadea on Twitter, at Bill Spadea on Instagram. Find us, like us, share this. Common Ground with Bill Spadea. Go to our website, billspadea.com. You can find all my social media and all our organizations there. And guys, the fight has just begun. And as you know, the thought has crossed my mind about 2025. So stay tuned because I am ready for a fight. And today is just day one. We are just getting started. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time on Common Ground.
Guys, Bill Spadea here. Like you, I am sick and tired of the culture of acceptance that has been beaten into us by Trenton politicians on both sides of the aisle. Accepting their higher taxes, accepting higher tolls, crumbling roads, accepting a radical school curriculum, accepting busloads of illegal border crossers, accepting prisoners being let out before they complete their sentences, and perhaps worst of all, accepting losing November after November. It is time to break the mentality of acceptance being pushed by Trenton politicians. We need to demand common sense policies and leaders who get it. I am excited to announce the launch of Elect Common Sense and to serve as its honorary chairman. It is time to get back to winning.